This is KOOP HD1 HD3 Hornsby, radio for people, not for profit. Welcome to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Each week, we explore how your library is more than books. The library is knowledge, technology, and inspiration for our community.
Hi, I'm librarian and media selector for Austin Public Library, Dale Kittendorf. I'll be your host today, as well as on some future upcoming episodes of Volumes. Today's guest is Ann Bramblett, the Assistant Director of Public Services for the Austin Public Library System. Full disclaimer, she is my boss, so no pressure.
No pressure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? Where did you live before moving to Austin?
So I was actually born in Kansas and then lived in Germany for a few years until my family ended up in the Washington, D.C. area. I was an Army brat. After college, I ended up in New Mexico for about a year, and then I went to the University of New Hampshire to receive a master's degree in English literature, and then ended up in northeastern Pennsylvania, and then finally here in Austin, Texas.
Wow, nice. So what did bring you to Austin?
Well, I'd been here in the late 90s. My sister actually lived and worked here then, and I remember visiting her and just completely falling in love with the city. And I didn't get a chance to come back until this past August of 2017, when I visited some high school friends who live here, and they took me to the White Horse Saloon, and we had a great night. And we were sitting there, and my friend looked at me and said, you would love Austin. You should totally move here. And I got home, and I thought I could move here. I was in a place in my life where that was completely an option. So I went on some of the professional job boards, and I found 2 jobs with Austin Public Library, and I applied for them, and I got both. So it was good. I hit the jackpot.
Excellent. So what do you like best about Austin so far since you've been down?
Everything. Coming from Pennsylvania, I love the weather. That was a huge draw for me to go from 9 months basically of winter to maybe a half a month really of winter here. I also really love the availability and what the city has done to ensure that you can really immerse yourself in the outdoors here. I love Zilker Park. I love to run and hike and swim, stand up paddleboard, and most of that stuff I don't even need a car to do. So that's my favorite part so far.
Right. That is great. The weather is amazing. Coming from Michigan myself.
Yeah.
So the next question is, what inspired you to become a librarian?
Well, I've always worked in positions that help people and that also established strong communities. I've worked in nonprofit administration. I taught college writing. I received, like I said before, my master's degree in literature. And I eventually became a nonprofit fundraiser, and when the library in my town announced that they were hiring a new director, I knew it would be the perfect job for me. It was a really quaint library, but it was really holding on to that kind of 1960s service model. They really were only purchasing books that they believe should be in a public library, not books that people who use a public library actually read. We had one program that was story time. It was done weekly. So when I started, I really wanted to seize the opportunity to make a huge impact and a huge change. So I began to fundraise. I was able to hire more specialized staff, and we ended up increasing the amount of users, circulation. Our big increase was in programming. We went from about 52 programs, would be one weekly story time, to over 250 programs annually.
Wow.
So, to get to the heart of it, it's really just the opportunity to radically change the way that the library was doing business, really by focusing on helping people and then giving people the opportunity to connect with their neighbors, and then to also enrich and sometimes even improve their lives through programming.
That's great. Yeah, I always think of how you became a librarian as your superhero origin story.
Right.
And whether you're Spider-Man and you were bit by a radioactive spider, or you were Batman and you grew up from birth knowing that you were going to fight crime or provide books to people. So
I love that. I think a lot of people get into the profession later. It seems to be a second or a third career option, and I think what drives a lot of people into it is helping people.
Right.
It's huge.
I agree. So if you're just joining us, this is Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and streaming on koop.org. And we're talking with Assistant Director of Public Services, Ann Bramblett. And so you're the Assistant Director of Public Services. What is a day in the life of Public Services Assistant Director?
Well, first is understanding what public services means. And the way I describe it is everything that the library does that's sort of outward facing and interacting with the community. So I have 5 divisions that I oversee. Branch services, we have 20 branches throughout the city, the Austin History Center, the new Central Library, programs and partnerships, and finally collections and cataloging. So a typical day for me, I have about 4 to 5 meetings a day. These could include anything from sitting on hiring panels to meeting with community partners like the United Way to brainstorm partnership opportunities. I serve on task forces. There's one that I recently served on where we made a recommendation to figure out ways to break down barriers to service, one of which being fines, for example. I visit the branches as much as I can to talk to staff and to try to get their input on the major decisions that administration is making. And that's truly my favorite part of the job, which I'm sure you'll ask me about later. And then I occasionally have to talk to customers who unfortunately once in a while have some service concerns. A lot of emails. And then also getting to interact with my colleagues. So there's a lot of walking around, getting to see the customers, interact with our staff, getting to interact with the customers myself. These are all part of my day.
Right. People.
Yes.
Lots of people.
Lots of people.
So when you started at Austin Public Library, were there any things that surprised you as kind of your expectations coming into a large library system in a hip, cool city?
That's right. Yeah. It's a complex system for sure. And I don't know if some of that complexity we've kind of put on ourselves. But as I go out to the branches and meet some of the more than, we've got like 437 staff right now. I'm really surprised about the people who work for the Austin Public Library Department. Their enthusiasm and their talent and their dedication is incredible. And that's everyone from the security team, custodial, the frontline staff, the volunteers, all the way up. They're amazing. So I think that's what is continually surprising me is the depth of talent that we have and that we are tapping into on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, and I think it kind of says something about the people that are drawn to it as a career.
Yes. And these are people who they don't have a master's degree in library and information science. Not everybody who works here does. And I think that adds so much value to what we offer.
Right. The passion for books is not necessarily tied to a specific degree.
No.
So what is one of the most challenging things about your job?
Well, again, working for a large department with a lot of different staff members with different opinions, it's certainly really hard to make a decision knowing that not everybody is going to agree with it. And I think knowing that and knowing that I'm new to the position, I understand that I have to build trust, and that's why I try to get as much input as possible. And then I just really hope that people see that I'm wanting to move the department forward, and sometimes it's going to be really uncomfortable, but change is hard. And I think that as long as people trust me, trust the process, that hopefully they'll see that we're moving in the right direction.
Right. And building those relationships that are going to go forward into Austin Public Library's future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. I can't wait to continue our conversation, but we do have some announcements, adult and teen children events that are going on at the library. And then there'll be a little bit more information, and then we'll be back to continue our conversation.
My name is Blair Parsons, and I'm a librarian at the Central Library. Each week I highlight a few programs for adults that are happening around the Austin Public Library. Our full list of programs may be found on the library's events calendar. Saturday afternoon, July 14th at the Central Library, author Joshua Pollack will discuss his book, The Heartfulness Way, Heart-Based Meditations for Spiritual Transformation. The Heartfulness Way addresses the essence of prayer and yogic transmission to demystifying the act of meditation through practical tips, and enables practitioners to live beyond the filters of their sensory limitations and discover unity within themselves. Joshua Pollack will discuss his work Saturday, July 14th at 2 o'clock at the Central Library. Monday evening, July 16th, the Twin Oaks Branch Library will host Basics of Python Programming. Attendees will learn Python from the ground up, starting by developing a foundation of basic computer programming logic, and then building into working with 3 Python data types: lists, strings, and integers. The class will culminate with learning arithmetic operations and how to build loops. Basics of Python programming begins at 6:30 p.m. Monday, July 16th at the Twin Oaks Branch Library.
Hey there, Austin. Teen Program Specialist Michael Harley from the Downtown Central Library here. Ever wanted to know how to follow your passion and run your own business? The Austin Public Library is giving teens the tools they need to get started with the Like a Boss series. This week, learn to brand like a boss. Mexicarte will be on hand to show teens how to transform their art into merchandise and kickstart their own brand. All supplies will be provided. Brand Like a Boss is making its mark on Thursday, July 12th at 1 p.m. at the Manchac Road branch. This program is open to teens ages 13 to 18. More details on Brand Like a Boss and additional summer reading programs can be found at library.austintexas.gov/events.
This is Alana Graves, the youth librarian at the Carver branch. The summer is almost halfway done, but the Austin Public Library is still offering summer reading events for kids. This week, the Austin Symphony Children's Day Art Park provides a free concert series and fun activities for children at the Central Library. On Wednesday, July 11th, kids of all ages can touch and try to play orchestral instruments in the Instrument Zoo, enjoy a featured performance, and participate in fun arts and crafts while listening to stories. This week's theme is frogs, cockroaches, and things that go boom. This event is part of the Austin Symphony Children's Day Art Park event series, which takes place on July 11th, 18th, and 25th, starting at 10 a.m. Details at library.austintexas.gov.
You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and KOOP.org. Radio for people, not for profit.
Support comes from Eastside Pies, local pizza with local ingredients. 3 locations around Austin: Eastside off Rosewood, Airport and 53rd, and Anderson Lane. Take out or eat in. Online ordering now available at eastsidepies.com.
Support comes from Lincoln Pen Gallery's I Found You, an exhibit featuring the work of 5 artists on view July 6th through July 29th. The artists all use found objects to create their mixed media works. These works explore humor, whimsy, dreams, and our connection to nature. Opening reception Saturday, July 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. Lincoln Pen Gallery is located at 2235 East 6th Street, Suite 102. Hours are 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. More at linkpenart.com.
Hi, welcome back to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. I'm Dale Kittendorf, your host today. Before the announcements, we heard about some upcoming programs at the libraries around town. Details are available at library.austintexas.gov/events. Now let's get back to our conversation with Ann Bramblett, the Assistant Director of Public Services for the Austin Public Library System. So, Ann, what do you find most rewarding about working in libraries? You kind of touched on some elements earlier, but what really stands out in terms of rewarding?
I think it's the ability to literally change people's lives and to see it happen really quickly. When I worked for the library in Pennsylvania, I ran a lot of programs, and one of them was a multi-part job searching program. So at one point in my career, I'd worked at a college career placement office. So I had a lot of experience with developing resumes and cover letters and working with students with job interview skills. So I was able to put together a course for people who were coming into my library, and it was very intimate. So I didn't have, I would limit it to the amount of people who would come in, and I would give them one-on-one help with their resumes and their cover letters. I would do mock interviews with them if they wanted. And it was amazing to see, one, their confidence build.
Right.
Two, to realize that this isn't a mystery process, that there are certain rules to follow, and you can use it for every single job that you apply for. And so that really opened up the world to them. And I got to see them get jobs. And that was super rewarding. I also ran an iPad class for seniors. And this was an 8-week-long class. And I had about 10 students for each time that I ran it. But I remember this one class, we were talking about how you FaceTime. And this one gentleman FaceTimed his grandson during the class. He didn't even let us know we were doing it. I was kind of just going over the instructions, and all of a sudden you just hear his grandson be like, "What are you doing? I can't believe you're doing this. This is so cool." And then the grandfather was laughing, and then everybody got so excited, and then everybody gathering around his iPad to see his grandson. And it was incredible. Just a couple weeks ago, I had somebody at the New Central Library stop me, and when you work with the public, you recognize certain faces, like when somebody's angry, when somebody's happy, when somebody's panicked. And this gentleman was completely panicked, and he was holding his iPhone, and he said, "Oh, do you work here? You have to help me. I just lost my itinerary email from the airline, and I'm leaving today, and I don't know any of the information." And I said, "No problem." I immediately found it for him and showed it to him, and he relaxed. And then I said, "Well, let me teach you what I did, so that the next time you can find it." And just the relief that he felt. It was such a simple exchange, but just knowing that in 2 seconds you can relieve people's anxieties, you can relax them, you can just create a really positive experience for them. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's great. The one thing that kind of stands out to me when I first started in libraries was helping an older gentleman get on his email. And then those connections, he came in every day, and then you're helping him make connections with his family, and then he's reaching his grandkids overseas. And so to see those human elements, and you're just basically helped with 2 little connector pieces, and then now they have the power to reach their family and loved ones everywhere. It's really cool.
Yeah, and teaching people how to use technology, and many of whom are incredibly intimidated by it. And it's wonderful to have the patience to show somebody how to do something and then see their world open up. It's incredible.
Right. Well, we're kind of touching on this a little bit, but the next question is, what can you say about how libraries are being used today? Obviously, with technology, that is a big thing, and we've talked about people, but what are some thoughts that you have?
I see libraries as community centers, and that's why I think our branches are so important, because our branches reflect the unique communities they serve. Every branch is different. Their programs are different. What they do on a daily basis could be different. They could be offering, for example, more one-on-one computer support in one location as compared to another one. I see us, we're community centers, we're entrepreneurial hubs. I've even seen a couple out on a date before at a library playing some of our board games. And we still provide those traditional library services. We still circulate books and media. We've got research databases. We have a team of wonderful reference librarians. We offer downloadable audiobooks and ebooks. We've got quiet spaces for people to read and study. But really, I think one of our biggest commodities, especially in Austin, is that community space. And you see it being used in really unique ways. I remember when I came for my interview, and I was up on the 6th floor of the New Central Library, and I saw this group of people in one of our shared learning rooms, and they were leaving, and I stopped them and I said, I hope this isn't invasive, but I'm just wondering how you're using this room, because they had the whiteboard up, and they were using that, and I think streaming some stuff on it. And they said that they were college students who had started their own business, and that they used the library as their office. So they would have they worked from home, but they would have meetings twice a week at the library using our shared learning rooms. And I thought, yes, this is exactly where I want to be. I want to be somewhere where you have that type of innovation happening in a shared public space. The idea of people being able to connect and share and discuss and learn, or just sit quietly and read. Librarians always talk about staying relevant and keeping current. And I think the beauty of it is that our focus can change monthly.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned the kind of a date night type of thing. And I know people who, they kind of are reminiscing about their days of going to Blockbuster, but they can come to the library and, they'll come in and pick out some videos like they would have done 10 years ago. It's kind of interesting.
That 6th floor, a garden rooftop is a fantastic place for a date.
So we're talking with Assistant Director of Public Services, Ann Bramblett. I personally select the music for a good portion of our libraries. And so have you been out to see any live music since you've been in the live music capital of the world?
I have. I went to see Junior Brown.
Oh, great.
At Green Hall.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. I have to say that was probably one of my best live music experiences that I've ever had. I was also able to go to Emos.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw my favorite band, who I have seen every year for maybe the past 7 years, The Devil Makes Three. So that was incredible. And I'm used to seeing them in New York City and Philly. And they didn't have as many people in the audience as they had in those cities. I think probably because maybe the competition's bigger here in Austin for people to go. So it felt like how it used to feel when I would see them at this tiny little place in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So that was fun.
That's cool. It's amazing, some of the big bands that you can see here in a small venue and very intimate. It's amazing. We are just about out of time, but I do have one last question to ask. This is kind of a big one, I guess. What is your vision of the Austin Public Library and its role in the community? Are there any particular aspects of organizations like Google that the library might be looking to incorporate?
Yeah, absolutely. We're situated in the new Central Library really closely physically to Google, and of course Facebook is coming up right near us. They have some principles of how they do business that I think libraries can certainly latch onto. So, for example, the idea of moving fast and breaking things is one of, I know, Facebook's tenets. And I think, when you work for a large city department and there are a lot of rules and regulations, sometimes we think that we can't move as quickly as we can. So I love that idea of kind of doing things fast, thinking them out, but also having that tiny bit of risk involved where you can plan all you want, but in the end, you're going to have to move. You're going to have to make some action. Google, I know, has this idea too of failing fast. When you do make a decision and maybe it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, that you recover quickly and you don't dwell, and you certainly create an environment where failure is okay, because that means that you're going outside of your comfort zone and you're taking chances. And I think that's a really, really good thing.
Right. Learn from your mistakes, but don't be stuck in fear of making those same mistakes again, or, don't be afraid to go out and take another risk.
Exactly. I think right now my vision, overreaching, it's to provide services and programs that meet the needs of the community. What I'm focusing on right now is creating internally within the library department a really vibrant and collaborative feel. I want staff at every level to feel like they have a voice, and I want to implement their ideas quickly. So if you've been in committees with me or meetings, I always say yes. Very rarely do I say no. But when I do say no, I know quickly. I say no, it's over, we move on. But I want to clear obstacles for people. I want to help them get excited about a project that they're working on. And I think in that way, that means saying yes to a lot and trusting people and letting them do their thing.
Right. Yeah, it definitely creates a more exciting environment. Maybe sometimes a little bit scary, but also fun.
Yeah, and if internally your organization is feeling supported, the people who work there are feeling supported, they're going to provide better service.
Right.
It's going to trickle down to the customer. So if the ultimate goal is to provide excellent customer service and to tailor what we're doing to their needs, then we need to work well internally in order to do that.
Great. So if we have time, I've heard through the grapevine that you were involved in roller derby, and I'd love to hear more about that in terms of your roller derby name and just your experience with that. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I started playing roller derby 3 years ago. So I actually had a friend who I went to University of New Hampshire with, and she got a teaching job at a school in Idaho, and she kept posting pictures of herself. They call it the Fresh Meat program. Those are the new skaters. And she looked like she was having a blast. And I thought, wow, if she could do this, I can definitely do this. So I went to tryouts. Tryouts required that you had a mouth guard. And in the case of our league, it just basically meant you were breathing. You made the team. They were happy to have you. So I hadn't been on roller skates in 20 years. I had to run into a wall to make myself stop. It took forever to buy all of my equipment. It's a huge time commitment to begin with, but it changed my life completely. So I found a sisterhood of women who are just my biggest supporters. And besides just the skating skill, and obviously it's full body contact sport. I did have some injuries. I thought at one point I broke my sternum, but thankfully I didn't. I actually had to get it x-rayed. But I learned a lot about leadership. I think that was primarily what the biggest takeaway from it was. I was served on the board of the team, and I also was the co-captain of our all-star traveling team, and I was a captain of our home team. And when you have 60 people paying to play a sport, you're going to get a lot of drama, essentially.
Right.
And
a lot of opinions.
You've got people hitting each other and they take it personally. And you have people who are being unsafe. It runs the gamut. You have people who are upset because they're not playing enough in games. And it's a lot to deal with. And so working on those problems and solving them, I think has helped me in my professional career tremendously. And my boss, Mr. Weeks, who's the director of the library department, he always tells me, "Be strong, Ann." And I said, "I played roller derby. I got this. Don't worry about it. I got it." So it's been tremendous. I actually joined a local league recently, and I practice once a week on their rec league. And we practice outside, and it's very hot. It's very hot, but I'm already meeting incredible people, and I actually became friends with one of the original Texas roller girls, and that's been really cool to get an insider's scoop on how the leagues started here in Austin.
Yeah, I think it's great in terms of adults being able to participate and get that sporting experience, like you're saying, with teammates and that kind of thing. And you may not have been an athletic person in high school, but you're a full-grown adult now, and you have an opportunity to be involved with a team and learn those lessons that you may or may not have learned when you were in high school or middle school. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really great about the sport is, one, it's incredibly inclusive. That's the whole point, is that we welcome everybody, and you can excel in this sport if you have had no athletic experience at all, any type of body shape. If you're not in shape, we'll get you in shape. It's amazing. And my league back in Pennsylvania, we invested in you. If you join the team and you're willing to put in the time, you could do incredible things within a year, for sure.
That's great. So flat track or bank track? Is that what it is? Banked? Is that the right term?
Correct. I did flat track.
Okay.
I've actually only been on a bank track one time. It was at the Penn Jersey, their warehouse. I went around, I think, 3 times, and I said, "Done, check, done it." That's good. I have a friend who plays for a bank track league here, and she keeps asking me to go. They've got open practices on Sundays, and I keep putting her off. I said, "I'll go and look. I'll watch." And she said, "No, there's no watching in Derby. Put on your skates." So I will. I'll eventually go.
That's great. Thanks to Ann Bramblett, the Assistant Director of Public Services, for taking the time to visit with us this afternoon at the Co-op Studio. I'm Dale Kittendorf. I've been your host today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Details are at library.austintexas.gov/volumes. Stay tuned on 91.7 FM and coop.org for Rock and Roll Pest Control.
Thanks for listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Special thanks to our producer, DJ Harris, and to the musicians who composed and performed our original theme song: Andrew Noble on violin, Kirk Duvall on guitar, and Mike Wheat on percussion. And thanks to you, our listeners. Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, airs Wednesday afternoons at 2:30 on Co-op 91.7 FM and koop.org. If you catch us mid-show, full episodes and other details can be found at library.austintexas.gov/volumes.